Hi, Mom. Hi, good morning. Well, it's morning here. Hope you had a great nap. All right, so today we're on chapter 19, Haganah Woman. The old man flipped through the pages of the December 15th issue of Life magazine, passing an advertisement showing Santa Claus puffing away on a Chesterfield cigarette. He said, turning the page, then peering at Elizabeth from beneath his bushy white eyebrows. Your photograph sells the magazine and Santa sells cigarettes. Not exactly full of Christmas cheer, your photograph, eh? He folded the cover back and laid the magazine face up. Ellie gazed at the shot of the tailor grasping at his heart as the murderer's knife plunged deep into his back. Remember that, Mom, when she was caught up in all that mess back several chapters ago? No, sir, she said. It was like a nightmare. Moshe tells me how you saved the boy. Moshe cleared his throat and shifted his weight from one foot to another. You have a commission now from the publication to stay in Jerusalem and cover the story. Yes, she said, nodding, still staring at the tailor and remembering his choking cry. That is good, very good. Perhaps you can tell the world and help them see what we are up against. That is very important, Miss Warren. We are alone and outnumbered, we Jews. We have been around for quite a while, and I hope that when the dust clears, we shall still be here. But we will not do it without public opinion. Ellie locked onto his eyes. I was right in the middle of that, you know. I saw what was going on. I still can't figure out the why of what happened, but it happened. So, what do you want from me? Ben Gurion first looked at Moshe. Gee, sorry, Mom. And then he looked back at Ellie. He frowned and pursed his lips thoughtfully. If it's pictures you want, we can make sure that you are right in the thick of it. Moshe says you are made of pretty tough material. He says that, does he? She looked at Moshe, who shrugged and grinned self-consciously. I'm not running for the first freight back to America, if that's what you mean. She sat back in her chair. Good. If you can take it, we will have all the story you can use. I know you're worried that Life magazine isn't sending some big, tough war correspondent to Jerusalem for this, and I know that I'm a woman, and on the contrary, the agency has no qualms about your ability or the ability of any dedicated woman. I would ask a man the same questions. Where you'll be going on the other side, they will be shooting real bullets right at you. You have to understand. You think after what happened to me 2 weeks ago, I'm not aware of the danger? Jerusalem is a keg of dynamite and the fuse to light it. Jerusalem. I am lucky enough to have plenty of film and an assignment to be here when it blows. Lucky? The old man repeated. That's the word. She held up her chin. Ben Gurion rocked back in his chair, tapped the photographs of the tailor's murder. Lucky is not a word many residents of Jerusalem would be using right now. He sat silently. Then it's settled, Moshe said, rubbing his hands together. You are staying. You'd have a terrible time of getting rid of me, Moshe, she said. Perhaps we should begin with the Ave Maria, the old man asked Moshe. Moshe grinned and nodded and turned to Ellie. How would you like to take a little Mediterranean cruise? Romantic and dangerous. Okay, so, fumbling with excitement, Ellie stuffed a heavy cable knit sweater and a pair of Levi's into a blue canvas duffel bag on her bed. As an afterthought, she tossed in extra wool socks, 2 changes of underwear. Moshe said we would be gone only overnight, but Ellie thought it never hurts to be prepared. Her bedroom door squeaked on its hinges, and Miriam entered carrying a small brown paper bag. I don't know where you're going to go or why, but you will need to eat, she said. Chicken sandwiches and zucchini bread. The bread is frozen, but it will thaw soon. Also, 2 oranges. She tossed the sack onto the bed and stood with her hands on her hips, shaking her head in disapproval. You are wearing this? She squinted at the Levi's in the denim shirt and then shook her head again. This is not a picnic, Miriam. I could get dirty. What is this? The woman picked up Ellie's stocking cap. You will wear this? Probably. Ellie continued to pack, wishing Miriam would go away. Ah, she said, pitching the cap into the duffel bag. You will look like a sailor. I guess so. Ellie avoided answering Miriam's question. So you will not tell this old woman where you're going? I can't, Ellie said, and she put her arms around Miriam's shoulder and gave her a quick hug. Well then, our Lord knows, and may he be merciful and keep you safe. She sighed and turned to leave. And take a warm sweater. I will. And if you're going to sea, take extra woolen socks. I did. The old woman smiled broadly. And stay dry, she said. She finally chuckled as she left the room. Oh, Ellie rolled her eyes in exasperation and tied the duffel bag and then followed Miriam and called after her. Take the day off. Go visit your son. Miriam raised her hand in acknowledgement and disappeared into the kitchen. There's no use in the old woman staying home and worrying, thought Ellie as she grabbed her camera bag and slipped into the study to kiss Uncle Howard goodbye. He sat among the empty shelves and cases, scribbling notes as he studied copies of the scroll photographs. When at last he looked up, his eyes were rimmed with weariness. Are you leaving, child? He put his hand out to her. On a convoy to Tel Aviv. They say Arabs don't bother convoys leaving the city. Only coming in. When will you return? Tomorrow night. David will fly me back. It's all arranged. She stood over the desk and stared at the photographs. I'm sorry the Bedouins didn't come back with the scroll. Oh, remember, Mom, they took the scrolls? They never brought them back for Howard to buy. Uncle Howard leaned back in the chair and stretched. To be expected. It is, after all, dangerous for them as well. Perhaps when all is settled again and quiet here. When will that be? Howard shrugged and smiled. God knows. I'm glad somebody does. She leaned down and kissed him lightly on the forehead, and then Ellie sat across from Moshe on a small metal jump seat in heavily armored transport. The morning light streamed through the window slits just above their heads. They shared the car with 4 others, 2 men and 2 women, on their way to Tel Aviv, destinations unspoken but somehow understood. Ellie recognized one man with the thick glasses and the rumpled business suit carrying a bulging briefcase. He and the slim, muscular Sabra man in the khaki had been in the waiting room at the Jewish Agency building. She could only guess at their assignment. The 2 women looked equally intent. One was thin, almost frail, probably not yet 20, Ellie thought. How much like a high school girl she looks. The other was heavy-set and thick-featured. Her kindly brown eyes smiled from behind a very large nose. Her graying hair was pulled back in a bun, and she wore a plain blue wool dress, black low-heeled shoes that looked like they had walked many a purposeful mile. She smiled and nodded at Moshe and called him by his first name, but, as if by some unwritten law, no one asked the others the reason for their travel on the road to Tel Aviv. The weather seems to have turned for the better, said the heavy-set woman, turning her eyes toward the streaming light as the vehicle lurched into motion. It is warming up, the bespectacled man said, clutching his briefcase. This morning My long underwear didn't need defrosting. Much better for the roads, eh? Said the saber man. We are less likely to get bogged down if it isn't raining. Agreed the first. Less mud for politicians to sling, he said with an impish grin. The descent from Jerusalem to Bab el Wad was much slower and more uncomfortable than Ellie had remembered. Rocks and ruts seemed to jostle the travelers every few feet, and the monotone drone of the engine soon was the only sound in the armored vehicle. 20 minutes down the road, Sabra began to hum a sad-sounding melody, and soon Moshe joined in softly until everyone was singing but Ellie, who could not understand the words. The tempo increased, filling the faces of the traveler with joy as they clapped and stamped their feet in time. That is beautiful, said Ellie when at last the song ended. She reached out and took Moshe's hand. What does it mean, Moshe? It's called Bashar Adroni. Oh, maybe it's Beshua Aldroni. He answered quietly, and then he frowned thoughtfully and began to translate. When the Lord brought back those that returned to Zion, we were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter and our tongues with singing. Then the Lord said among the nation, the Lord hath done great things for us, the Lord hath done great things with us. Turn our captivity, O Lord, as streams of dry land, that they sow in tears shall reap in joy. Will you teach me? She asked brightly. Oh, there are many songs to learn, the Sabra chimed in. Then he burst into songs, and the others joined him once again, and the grinding miles seemed to just melt away. After each song, Moshe would translate, and then the group would sing it again more slowly so that she could sing along. Occasionally, a small convoy would pass, an Arab riding with a donkey with his wife walking along behind, and once when Ellie raised up to peek out the slitted window, she glimpsed 3 silent peasants standing on the top of a boulder by the roadside, their battered rifles plainly in view. They will not attack trucks coming out of the city, Ellie told herself. They are waiting for the convoy into Jerusalem. Somehow that thought was not reassuring. Moshe tugged on her sweater. Sit down. Sometimes there are snipers in the rocks. They can see movement through the window. Instantly, Ellie planted herself on the seat and remained there until the last road seemed to level out and the curves became less difficult. A few minutes to Latrun now, the driver called back over his shoulder. Latrun. Ellie felt her mouth go dry. Isn't that the place where the bus? Moshe nodded and closed his eyes for a moment at the memory. Then the vehicle slowed as the driver downshifted and leaned forward to peer intently out the slit. Roadblock is set ahead, he said apprehensively. British. The frail woman shifted uneasily and fear crossed her face. The older woman reached out and touched her arm reassuringly and then pulled herself up very straight. The vehicle ground to a halt and Ellie heard the British accent of soldiers shouting orders, then a loud bang on the door in the back. Open up, a harsh voice demanded. Bus fare, quipped a little man. Exact change or death. He sliced his finger across his neck, but no one laughed. By whose authority? Shouted the saber man. By the authority of His Majesty's Mandate Government of Palestine. The soldier pounded on the door again. Open up! The saber unlocked the doors and shoved them open hard, causing one of the soldiers outside to fall back. The 3 other soldiers stepped forward with guns in their hands. Okay, Mom. Yeah, gotta stop. But it's okay. Tomorrow after nap time, you can read and find out what happens with the guns. I don't even know yet until I read it. So we both have to wait. All right. I love you, Mom. I hope you have a wonderful, amazing